For the confusions, we have sorted it out, and I read the letter. The title of the letter is Request for Approval of Additional Financing of the National Social Safety Net Program, scaled up by the National Assembly. It is with pleasure that I refer the above matter to you. Please note that the Federal Executive Council, led by President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, FEC approved an additional loan facility to the tune of $800 million US dollars to be secured from the World Bank for the National Safety Net Program. Copy of FEC extract attached hereby. You may also wish to note that the purpose of the facility is to expand coverage of shock responsive safety net support for poor and vulnerable Nigerians and to help them cope with the cost of meeting basic needs. You may further wish to note that under the conditional cash transfer window of the program, the federal government of Nigeria will transfer the sum of 8,000 naira per month to 12 million poor and low-income households for a period of 6 months, with a multiplier effect on about 60 million individuals. In order to guarantee the credibility of the process, digital transfers will be made directly to beneficiaries' accounts and mobile wallets. It is expected that the program will stimulate economic activity in the formal sector and improve nutrition, health, and education outcomes for beneficiary households. Given the above, I wish to invite the House of Representatives to kindly grant approval for the loan facility of 800 million USD, United States dollars, to be secured from the World Bank for the National Social Safety Net Program. While hoping that this submission will receive expeditious consideration by the House of Representatives, please accept, Right Honorable Speaker, the assurances of my highest regards. Yours sincerely, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We have an announcement coming from the Deputy Speaker, and it is in respect of a meeting with the Southeast Caucus. The meeting is slated for 13th July, Thursday, 13th July 2023, and the venue is at the Deputy Speaker's office, time 3:30 p.m. Those are the only announcements we have. The next item is petitions. Any member who has a petition to present to the House may please rise to do so. Do we have petitions? Yes, honorable colleague.
Speaker and my honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Satochukwu Chinedu Okere. I have the mandate to represent Owerri Municipal, Owerri North, and Owerri West Federal Constituency. I am an Owerri man from Imo State. Mr. Speaker, I have this petition from the host communities of Anambra Imo River Basin Development Authority. This is a petition against Engineer Gerald Osuagwu and a call for an investigation into his activities as Managing Director of Anambra Imo River Basin Development Authority. Mr. Speaker, I seek your kind permission and the leave of this great house of honorable members to lay this petition.
Please go ahead. Any more petitions? Yes, Honorable.
Good morning, Speaker. My name is Ibe Okwara Osonwa, and I represent the prosperous people of Aruchukwu Ohafia Federal Constituency in Abia State. Mr. Speaker, I have a petition here from one of my constituents representing the Chartered Institute of Project Managers of Nigeria. And this petition is against the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade, and Investments. And they want an investigation to review them attempting to break a law that this great house wrote and passed. I seek your permission and the permission of this great house to lay this complaint.
Please go ahead. Any more petitions? Any more petitions? Petitions referred to the Committee on Public Petitions when constituted. Matters of urgent public importance. Any member who has a matter of urgent public importance to present may please rise to do so. Honorable Kabir Ahmadu.
Check your microphone whether it works.
Please go ahead.
Okay, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Kabiru Ahmadu is my name. I represent the entire people of Gusau's Ife Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I am from Zamfara State. Mr. Speaker, I came under Order A to Rule 4 to bring up a matter of urgent public importance concerning the continuous and unending killings in Zamfara State. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Did you request for suspension? He did?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any seconder? Honorable Idem?
Member representing Bukanafun, Orogonam Federal Constituency of Akwa Ibom State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion as moved by my colleague. I still second.
Honorable colleagues, those in support of this motion that is urgent enough to be taken should please say aye. Aye. Those against should say nay. The second leg, any seconder for the second leg for the suspension of our orders to take this motion now. The last one.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Taufik Abimbola Adilesoro, a member representing Ife Federal Constituency. I stand to second the motions that our rules be suspended in order for our honorable members to take his motions. I so second, Mr. Speaker. Okay.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. Honorable, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My respected colleagues, motion on matter of urgent public importance about the continuous and unending killings in Zamfara State. The House notes that Nigeria is a federation made of 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, which states created to bring the government closer to the people. To complement the effort of the federal government in providing social amenities and in maintenance of law and order, ensure the security and safety of the people are of paramount importance amongst several others. Also note that Zamfara State, being one of the 36 states of the Federation, is bounded by the same principles of bringing the government closer to people, protecting the lives and the properties of people, among others. Recalls that Section 14(2)(b) of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, provides that the security and the welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. Note that Zamfara State has become one of the worst hit states of the Federation with respect of spate of killings, maiming, and all forms of destruction, which has lasted for over a decade. Mr. Speaker recalls that Gusau local government, which is the capital of Zamfara State, is not also spared in this manner. Just last week, gunmen who are now basically referred to as bandits stormed student off-campus residences in Sabongere area, where they took away 5 students of Federal University Gusau FUG. Up till this moment, the students are in captivity as the bandits are demanding millions of naira as ransom. Mr. Speaker, Mada, Wona, Karijiya, Wanke, Ruwan Ore, Magami, Dampa, Karazau, Kasharwa, Tungar Haki, all are towns under Gusau local government who are predominantly farmers and business people. But today, they can't access their farms, they can't go to their markets. As a result, business transactions, especially in the rural market, have been paralyzed, thereby causing the residents of these areas untold hardship, poverty, and hunger. Mr. Speaker recalls that recently in Sape, bandits in a broad daylight invaded the town, attacked and killed almost 8 people, abducted dozens as usual. They are now demanding millions of naira as ransom. Already Sape local government has become a soft target where the bandits invade and attack at will and with reckless impunity. Over this time period, since the deterioration of the security, these heartless criminals have continuously sacked thousands of people from their homes, killed hundreds, and ransacked a lot of villages around Wanzamai, Danjibga, Keta, Kwarenganwa, Magazu, Endoto, and Endoton Daji, all under Sape local government. Mr. Speaker, just yesterday in Magami town, over 10 farmers were killed, 17 were abducted in a broad daylight. Mr. Speaker, this grievous menace of continuous and non-stop security challenges in the state has already escalated to the neighboring states, such as Katsina, Sokoto, Kebbi, Niger, and Kaduna states. This has led to constant revolt from the back pages of print media, broadcast stations, and even social media on how people are bearing the brunt of security challenges with their lives. Observe that in addition to the continuous grievous loss of lives, homes, and the properties, the lingering security challenges have crippled the economic and educational sector of the state, as nobody from outside the state is willing to go to Zamfara State to conduct any businesses or to even invest. Again, up till today, Mr. Speaker, no single boarding school is operating in the states. The only federal university operating seems to be a new target of the bandits in an obvious ploy to intimidate the student and force the university management to shut it down by carrying out intermittent attack almost on daily basis. Right now, as mentioned earlier, most of the local markets are reported to have been shut down, making the people of the area extremely poor, weak, and pessimistic in the ability of government to give them the needed protection in line with its constitutional mandates. Mr. Speaker, concerned that if urgent intervention steps are not implemented and pushed by this great house, the sacrosanct provisions of the section 14(2)(b) and 33(1) of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended will be violated and denied of the people of Zamfara State, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, the following two are resolves. Number one, to mandate the House to call on the Nigerian Armed Forces, the Nigerian Police Forces, Nigerian Armed Forces, Nigerian Police, State Security and State Security Services, and all other security agencies to, as matter of urgency, flush out this criminal element from the state and restore normalcy in the state. Number two, to mandate the House to also call on the Nigerian Armed Forces to build military bases between Wanke to Magami, also between Dampa to Karazau, also between Kwarenganwa to Bilbis, and also between Saipe to Anzamai, and also to mount more checkpoints around these areas in order to stop these incessant attacks from bandits. Mr. Speaker, the third one and the last one is to set up an ad hoc committee to liaise with armed forces, security agencies, and other committees of the House, including the House committees on Army, Air Force, Defense, and all other relevant committees, and all other relevant committees of the House when constituted to ensure implementation of the above resolution. Mr. Speaker, I so move. Thank you.
Any seconder? Honorable Tijani?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My highly respected colleagues, I remain Tijani Kayode Ismail, representing the good people of Ifelodun, Ofa, on your federal constituency, Mr. Speaker, and from Kwara State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion heavily moved by my colleague. I so second. And Mr. Speaker, good to see you. Just resuming today.
Thank you. Good to see you too. So we put the question, those in support of this motion should say aye. Aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. This motion is referred to ad hoc committee, which will be constituted in due course. Thank you. The next matter of urgent importance, Honorable Rufai Jingi, can you rise and present your motion, please?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Jingi Rufai, representing the good people of Maiha, Mubi North and South Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I am from Adamawa State. Mr. Speaker, my dear distinguished honorable colleagues, I rise to move a motion of urgent public importance under Order 8, Rule 4, Section 2 of the House Standing Order that need to stop alleged plan by Federal Ministry of Education to relocate the Federal University of Agriculture, Mubi, Adamawa State, against the approval granted by former President Muhammadu Buhari, which cost about 5 lives this morning. So, Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Any seconder to the first leg? Honorable Zakaria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleague.
I am Honorable Dauda Zakaria Nyampa, member representing the people of Madagali, Michika Federal Constituency from Adamawa State. I rise to...
What's your point of order? No, go ahead, go ahead. Go back to your seat. Is it on now? Please press it again. Press it.
Come here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, I remain Honorable Comrade Chinedu Oga ON. Mr. Speaker, I come order 6, Rule 2. Mr. Speaker, this matter of public importance is not public importance, Mr. Speaker. We are talking something that is affecting the country at whole, something that if it's not taken immediately, it will cause damages to this country. I advise my honorable colleagues.
Honorable, I've been told that as we are talking, fight is still ongoing in that particular community. Even this morning, 2 people lost their lives, so I consider that as an urgent issue. Okay. You are ruled out of order.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Order, please. Order, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for protecting my honorable colleague. I am Dauda Zakaria Nyampa, member representing the people of Madagali, Michika Federal Constituency. I rise to second the motion ably moved by Honorable Jingi Rufai. I so second, Mr. Speaker.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Aye. Those against should say nay. The second leg, that this matter is urgent enough to be taken now. Those in support, okay, second that to that. Honorable Lizzie.
Eze, Nwachukwu Eze, representing the good people of Ebonyi.
Is the microphone on there?
Yes.
It's okay.
Representing the good people of Ebonyi Ohuku Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I arise to second the motion as moved by my honorable colleague. Thank you. I so second.
Thank you. Those in support of this motion should say aye. Aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. Honorable Jirgi, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my distinguished honorable colleagues. The House notes that former President Muhammadu Buhari signed into law bills, among other tertiary institutions, bill for the establishment of Federal University of Agriculture, Mubi, Adamawa State. The approval of Mr. President was conveyed via a letter dated April 18, 2023, written to the Honorable Minister of Education via a reference number SH/COS/02/A/3342 through the President's Chief of Staff, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, laments that the Federal Ministry of Education was allegedly conceiving the idea of relocating the institution to home local government, disguising under a flimsy reason that there exists a federal polytechnic in Mubi. This move, Mr. Speaker, if proven, is a flagrant disrespect to the presidential directive which cited the institution in Mubi. Further notes that there have been protests and agitations by the people of Adamawa Northern Senatorial District against the plan of relocating the institution to another place, which may pitch the two communities in Adamawa State. Hence, the need for urgent intervention as it is ongoing now. Resolve to A, mandate the Committee on Tertiary Education and Services when constituted to investigate the veracity of this allegation and act appropriately on the matter. B, urge His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu to order revisal of the move for the relocation of the institution by the Federal Ministry of Education. And thirdly, which is the last prayer, all the members of Adamawa Northern Senatorial District to stay calm and be law-abiding until the matter is duly investigated and appropriate measure taken. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Any seconder? Honorable Miriam.
Excellency, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Miriam Odinaka Onoha. I represent the fabulously united people of Okigwe, Onimo, Isialamba, North Federal Constituency of Imo State. I rise to second this wonderful motion, ably moved by my brother. I so second. Thank you, sir.
Honorable Agada.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. This motion is referred to, what is the prayer? What committee did you pray for? Tertiary? Tertiary? So this motion is referred to the Committee on Tertiary when constituted. The first, honorable colleagues, the first order of the day is presentation of 15 bills. Now I invite the clerk to read their short titles.
Right Honorable Speaker, honorable members. 2022 Supplementary Appropriation Act Amendment Bill 2023, first reading. Federal University of Sports, Karfi, Kano State Establishment Bill 2023, first reading. Federal Medical Centers Act Amendment Bill 2023, first reading. Federal College of Dental Technology and Therapy, Fagi Establishment Bill 2023, first reading. Institute of Debt Recovery Practitioners of Nigeria Establishment Bill 2023, first reading. Insurance Act Repeal and Enactment Bill 2023, first reading. Federal Audit Service Act Amendment Bill 2023, first reading. Defense Industries Corporation of Nigeria Repeal Bill 2023, first reading. Hydroelectric Power Producing Areas Development Commission Act Amendment Bill 2023, first reading. Federal Medical Centers Act Amendment Bill 2023, first reading. Federal Medical Centers Act Amendment Bill 2023, first reading. Federal University of Information and Communication Technology, Lagos Island, Lagos State Establishment Bill 2023, first reading. Federal University of Agriculture, Ute Opa, Delta State Establishment Bill 2023, first reading. Federal University of Health Science, Kwankwaso, Kano State Establishment Bill 2023, first reading. Federal Medical Centers Act Amendment Bill 2023, first reading.
Honorable colleagues, the first order of the day is commencement of the debate on general principles of a bill for an act to authorize the issuance of the sum of 500 billion naira only from the 2022 supplementary appropriations of 819 billion 536 million 937,000 naira only for the provisions of palliatives to Nigerians to cushion the effect of fuel subsidy removal, standing in the name of House Leader. Honorable members will recall that this bill was read the first time on Thursday, 13 July 2023. Before I invite the House Leader to lead, I would want to call on him to move that Order 1203 should be read for us to suspend this particular rule to enable us to take this motion right away. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, remain Julius Ihonvere, representing Owan Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Edo State. I rise in compliance with our standing orders to request that the House do suspend Order 12, Rules 3, 1, and 2 to enable us to take this as second reading. I so move.
Any seconder from the leadership?
Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, Kingsley Chinda, I represent Tobiabo Federal Constituency. I'm an Ikwere man from River State. I rise to second the motion moved by the House Leader that we suspend our rules to enable us to take second and third reading of this bill. I so second.
Thank you. Put it to question. Honorable members, those in support of this motion should say aye. Aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. Leader, please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Professor Julius Ihonvere, OON, DSSRS. Very important. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that a bill for an act to authorize the issuance of the sum of 500 billion naira only from the 2022 supplementary appropriations of 819 billion 536 million 937,815 naira only for the provisions of palliatives to Nigerians to cushion the effects of subsidy removal be considered for a second reading. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Any seconder? Honorable Wase, can you second?
Respectfully, I rise to second the motion as ably moved by the Leader of the House. I so second.
Thank you. Honorable colleagues, those in support of this motion should say aye. Aye. Those against should say nay. Leader, please lead the debate.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for this opportunity to lead this debate. As you know very well, at a point in history, every nation must pause and decide to refocus, reposition, redirect, and re-strategize for the future. In a situation where policies are inevitably taken and they lead to expected and unexpected conditions or situations, we pray that we always have a government that listens and responds to the yearnings of the people. In this House, on this floor, many members have moved motions about the need for palliatives to our countrymen and women affected by the removal of fuel subsidy. In the media and on the floor of this House, I have not met or heard one person opposed to the removal of fuel subsidy. And the issue is, where are the palliatives? And I want to say that clearly we have a government that listens, because we've been through our history and we know what happened in the past. The government obviously has done its job, studied the situation, and come to the conclusion that there was a need to respond to Nigerians so that we can not solve all the problems in one full swoop, but provide some support to men, women, families, communities, and constituencies so that they can weather the difficult terrain that we find ourselves in today. Mr. Speaker, I want to urge all my colleagues in this House, as part of our understanding that we want to work with the other arms of government to find solutions to the problems bedeviling our people, to support the passage of this request for an act to provide additional 500 billion to provide palliatives and cushion the effects of subsidy removal. I'm sure there's nobody in this House who is not feeling the impact of subsidy removal. And I think it is a credit to the executive that they are responding to the cries and yearnings of the Nigerian people. I so believe that my colleagues will consider this speedily so that we can move out. Nigerians are waiting to hear from us. They are waiting to see how we are going to handle this bill. They are waiting to see how much we empathize and sympathize with the situation they face on a daily basis. They are waiting to see whether we truly believe in one Nigeria, a Nigeria where the arms of government work together in order to find solutions to the problems of the Nigerian people. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity to lead this debate, and I urge the support of my brothers and sisters here, my colleagues, to ensure that we move forward. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Contributions. I start with Honorable Jahan. Mr. Jaha Kabesi will be the next to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. Jaha Babao is my name. I represent Chibok, Dambua, and Goza Federal Constituency. On record, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, including the remaining not yet recovered Chibok girls. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I want to use this opportunity to commend the executive for taking the bull by its horns. The executive of today for taking a very painful decision that the previous government from 1999 to date refused deliberately, despite it's in the interest of the country, to remove subsidy because of fear of loss of popularity or fear of anything you can think of. I commend the current government for taking the bull by its horns to remove the subsidy in the interest of Nigeria. Secondly, Mr. Speaker is wanting to provide budgetary allocation for the provision of palliatives to cushion the effect of oil subsidy removal. It's another thing for such money appropriated be used for the purpose intended. Mr. Speaker, according to an American journalist, H.S. Aga, that the truth that set men free is in most cases the truth that men prefer not to hear. Sir, in this chamber, we have been passing budget upon budget, year by year, supplementary budget upon supplementary budget, year by year. But in most cases, the budget is not used for the purpose intended. What I mean, in other words, is this time around, we are all feeling the impact of subsidy removal all over the country. So we urge that immediately after approving this budget, that it should be used for the purpose intended, so that Nigerians cannot continue to suffer as a result of subsidy removal. Lastly, Your Excellency, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I am using this opportunity for our constituents to understand, for members to understand that if this money can be used for the purpose intended, definitely the 360 constituency we are representing today may not in one way or the other feel the impact of subsidy removal. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Your Excellency, because I know a lot of people have something to contribute as far as this bill is concerned. This is my support. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Kabesi. Our next alive, inshallah.
Chief. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, I can hear you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yeah, my name is Prince Akim Adeni Yadiyemi. Mr. Speaker, I support the good people, or I represent the good people of Afidjo, Atiba, Oyo East, and Oyo West Federal Constituency. I'm from the Princess State. Mr. Speaker, today, the present government has done the needful. The monster called subsidy is gone, should gone, must be gone. Mr. Speaker, if you know the amount of money that goes on subsidy every month, my fellow colleagues will know that the president asking for this 500 billion as palliative should be not only be supported. I think this house will even be talking about additional fund as palliative to Nigerians. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to commend the Nigerian Labour Congress. For the first time, the Liverpool board, they left sentiment and support the president. They call off their strike. And also want to commend some reasonable opposition party who leave sentiment. And together with the federal government, the president APC, they supported this idea. It is important that this must be achieved. It can only be achieved if Nigerians, the masses that are feeling the brunt of this monster in the area of economic hardship, are not adequately compensated. Mr. Speaker, I want to support and I want to oblige all the members of this National Assembly to support this federal government in this quest to get this money and use it as palliative for Nigeria. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, I am Honorable Adedeji Stanley Olajide. I represent the people of Ibadan, Northwest, Southwest Federal Constituency of Oyo State. Mr. Speaker, this is indeed a very wonderful and a good day for Nigeria. For the first time, I see an executive that is ready to listen and also provide for the needs of common Nigerians. I hate to use the word common because often too much times we think these people have no rights. But with this subsidy removal and provision to reduce their suffering, Mr. Speaker, this is indeed a wonderful day. And I also want to say, if this 500 billion is not enough, we should also be willing to do whatever it takes to support the needs of our people. Thank you very much for yielding the floor, Mr. Speaker. I thank you and thank you again.
Honorable Benila.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My name is Benila. I represent Langtang North and South Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, it is not in doubt that Nigerians are going through untold hardship, rising cost of living that has become unbearable for most Nigerians. While I commend Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for giving us this 500 billion request as palliatives to alleviate the sufferings of Nigerians, Mr. Speaker, I think we must go a step further. What is going to be the nature of the palliatives? Nigerians cannot feed 3 square meals a day. The average Nigerian, as I speak, the middle class is almost wiped out because of the cost of living. The poor and the middle class. How is this 500 billion going to help our businesses? But if we're not talking about businesses and we're talking about individuals, how are we going to identify the most pressing needs of Nigerians? Is it going to be applied to transportation? Is it going to be applied to healthcare? Is it going to be applied to providing food or feeding or increase in wages? What about those in the informal sector? Some people are not employed by government. How do we ensure that this palliatives reaches them? So, Mr. Speaker, while I commend this, I think we should set up a committee, an ad hoc committee, to recommend the implementation of the palliatives and how these palliatives should be utilized by government. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Oshoba. Next.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My honorable colleagues, Olumide Oshoba representing Abeokuta North, Obafemode, and Oda Federal Constituency. I rise to support this bill. Mr. Speaker, Nigerians are going through a lot. And as President has stated clearly that we need to go through the hardship for things to get better. And our President has ably stated as well that he's going to take his time and make sure this palliative gets into the right hands, and I'm quoting him. Now, as a parliament, we should do our job, which is to oversight the funds when they are released. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Let me recognize among the new members, Honorable Regina. Press your microphone so that I can recognize your seat. Can you touch it again?
Right Honorable Speaker, my dear colleagues, my name is Honorable Regina Akume, representing the good people of Boko and Taka constituency. I rise to commend the removal of subsidy, and having heard what my colleagues have said, I want to say I agree with Honorable La that says we need to form an ad hoc committee to look into, to oversight, yes,
Honorable Ali Madaki.
Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, my name is Ali Usani Madaki, and I represent the people of the Ala Federal Constituency of Kano State.
Honorable Maki, please can you get seated?
Mr. Speaker, I stand this morning before this House to commend Mr. President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for this wonderful gift he is given to Nigerians and even to the Nigerian Parliament. Mr. Speaker, if you will recall, on our first legislative sitting after your selection as the Speaker, I raised a motion on the floor of this House urging Mr. President, your election, Mr. Speaker, after your election, Mr.
Order,
Speaker,
please. Order, please.
I raised a motion.
Please go ahead.
I raised a motion on the floor of this House asking Mr. President to quickly make available palliatives to Nigeria based on his promise after the removal of fuel subsidy. And today, Mr. Speaker, Mr. President being a listening president who hears the cries of Nigerians, has
Honorable colleagues, order, please.
this
Honorable colleagues.
bill to us, and I believe as parliamentarians, we should quickly do the needful so that our constituents will enjoy the dividend of democracy. And before I sit down, Mr. Speaker, I want to again thank Mr. President for abiding by our Constitution. If you read Section 14(1), the Federal Republic of Nigeria shall be a state based on the principle of democracy and social justice. Mr. Speaker, if you go to Section 16(b) again, it says, control of the national economy in such a manner as to secure the maximum welfare, freedom, and happiness of every citizen on the basis of social justice, equality of status and opportunity. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, if you go to Section 17(d),
Honorable Victor was a point of order. Can you touch it, please, again? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Victor Afamogene. I speak for the people of Obaru Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, dear colleagues, I'm from Anambra State. I come under Order 6, Rule 2, privilege. While the Deputy Minority Leader was making his contribution, he used the word selected, and I do know that we elected our Speaker on this floor. That is my point of order.
I think he has corrected himself. So your point of order noted. Thank you.
Exploitation of human or natural resources in any form whatsoever for reasons other than the good of the community shall be prevented. In essence, what I'm trying to say by citing this section of the Constitution is that what Mr. President did was following our Constitution, and we should commend him for that. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Thank you. We'll just take two more contributions. One, the last to speak will be our Honorable Chinda will speak can speak now, and then the DS will round up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, my dear colleagues, for yielding the floor to me. My name is Kingsley Chinda. I represent Tobiabo Federal Constituency. I'm an Ikore man from Rivers State. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I think that the proper yardstick to measure any government is whether that government is responsible and responsive. As those who speak for Nigerian people, we have actually asked for palliatives on the floor of this chamber. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, the bill before us is one I believe we will pass with the speed of light. However, Mr. Speaker, we are also aware as Nigerians that when we talk of palliatives, sometimes we see handouts being given to Nigerians, which will end up not having the effect, the purpose, and purport of palliative. Mr. Speaker, we commend Mr. President for being responsive to the resolution of this House by promptly requesting for this money for palliative for Nigerians. Indeed, this money has already been budgeted in the appropriation. Therefore, it is nothing new. But the concern of Nigerians will always be the usage of this palliative, implementation of this palliative. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, indeed, addressing the executive arm directly, we want to see a palliative that will have positive effect on Nigerians. You have bills that are skyrocketing. We want to see palliative that will give not minimum wage, but living wage to Nigerians. A palliative that will allow us breathe, not suffocate the ordinary man, like Mr. President said. NEPA bill is very high. We want to see a reduction, sir. It will help Nigerians as part of the palliative. School fees are high. We discussed it on the floor of this chamber. We want to draw the attention of the executive arm to all these sectors as part of the palliatives. If it is approval of 500 billion, which is already in the budget, this House will have no difficulty in doing that. But we want to stand out to see that our people actually are palliated by this palliative. Therefore, I will urge my dear colleagues, yes, we support this. Yes, let us allow this to pass. But we must be very vigilant in course of implementation and execution of the palliative. We do not want to see 5,000 naira handed to Nigerians on the streets in form of palliative. Palliative should be meaningful. And we pray that Mr. President, being responsive, will also respond positively to this. It is a test case for the administration, and we pray that they will not fail in this test. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, what's the point of order?
Honor, Umuahia North and Umuahia South Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I rise on Order 6, Rule 2. Mr. Speaker, the importance of this issue, the bill that we are debating upon today, is so great that it's reasonable, Mr. Speaker, just to have a few debates on it. These issues affect the generality of Nigerians, and we must be allowed, Mr. Speaker, representing 360 constituencies in the Federation, only to be heard by a few members who represent just but less than 1% of those constituencies in the chamber. Mr. Speaker, the issues at hand, we're talking about a country that still cannot service its debt. 96% of every revenue flow goes to servicing the debt. 43 employment opportunities.
Honorable Obi,
So, Mr. Speaker,
go straight to your point of order,
the
please.
point of order, Mr. Speaker, I would like the Speaker, pleading with Mr. Speaker to allow more debate on this issue. I submit.
Honorable colleague, your point is noted. However, you need to know that our orders for the day are heavy. We have a lot of motions to consider, and I believe that given opportunity to our leaders of all the parties and some few other members, at least about 10, it's good enough for us to at least gauge the acceptance or otherwise of members of this great chamber on this particular motion. So I think we have done enough, and we yield the floor to the DS to round up, and we call for vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, the most distinguished Speaker of the 10th Assembly. Thank you, honorable colleagues. My name is Benjamin Okezie Carlo. I represent the good people of Nigeria, starting from Bende Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Abia State, and I rise to lend my voice to this very wonderful, very timely debate on what is presented to us by the executive. Mr. Speaker, most of my colleagues have really dealt with this particular issue, starting from the majority leader of the House, who took his time to adumbrate on the necessity of this executive bill. Mr. Speaker, you know there comes a time in the life of a country where leaders with boldness and courage are needed. It appears we have gotten one, because it will take courage and boldness to remove the subsidy. Mr. Speaker, there comes a time in the life of a nation where a leader that is sensitive to the welfare of the people is needed. Honorable members, it appears to me that we have gotten such leader. It has come to my knowledge that this leader is the one that has a listening ear. Because few days ago, a member of NMPP, not APC, Honorable Madaki, raised a motion here, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of Nigerians. And today, the executives are presenting a response to the yearning of the parliament from the opposition. Mr. Speaker, emphasis should be that this was raised by the opposition, and the president, who is from the majority party, took a clue and took a step. Mr. Speaker, the subsidy all of us are crying about is just a delayed gratification, removal of it. We need something done in the country. We want to correct something in the country. That is what the executive have done by presenting this. And it is important, Mr. Speaker, that we break it a little further down for our colleagues to understand that this money is not a freebie. It's not going to be as usual. We have a man that is from the private sector, a man who has a policy drive that is channeled towards bettering the lot of Nigerians. And therefore, he has broken this down from our analysis. Mr. Speaker, this money we are talking about, we have about 185 billion plus that is going to Ministry of Works and Housing to alleviate the impact of the severe flooding experienced in the country in 2022 on road infrastructure across the 6 geopolitical zones. Mr. Speaker, 6 geopolitical zones. And Mr. Speaker and honorable colleagues, you know that this flooding that we have experienced has not isolated any sector, any particular section of the country. It has gone round. If you say you did not experience flood, I experienced it in my own place. So this money is going to be applied there. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, 19 billion is going to Federal Ministry of Agriculture to ameliorate the massive destruction of farmlands across the country during the severe flooding I just mentioned last year. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, if we don't do anything and allow this impact of ecological impact that ravage the lands, and we are dependent on agriculture, and we are looking at agriculture as the second source of our income, we are doing a disservice to this nation. Mr. Speaker, also, we have the arm of government that have not been well catered for, and these ones are the ones who make sure that the interpretation of our laws are done at the right time. I'm talking about the judiciary. Nobody speaks for them. They are seen but not heard, except when they sit there to give their judgment. They have needs, Mr. Speaker. This is what this particular palliative is going to be looking at, which is 35 billion that is going to National Judicial Council, Mr. Speaker. This money is not going to be distributed. We have about 10 billion that is going to Capital Territory Administration for critical projects. And I can go on and on, including the challenges of the House of Rep, the challenges of the Senate. They've been captured by this particular provision that is being presented to us, so that your welfare and your offices that are not functioning well will be taken care of. So I want to move, Mr. Speaker, that the House will help us to ensure that this is passed as presented. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order, please.
Thank you, DS. Honorable colleagues.
Honorable colleagues, order, please.
Order, please. Order.
Honorable colleagues, one house, please.
So I put the question, honorable colleagues. Honorable colleagues, I'll put the question. Those in support that this bill be read for the second time should say aye. Aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk, please read the long title of the bill.
Right Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to authorize the issuance of the sum of 500 billion naira only from the 2022 supplementary appropriations of 819 billion 536,937,815 naira only for the provisions of palliatives to Nigerians to cushion the effect of fuel subsidy removal, second reading.
Bill referred to the Committee of Supply. The second order of the day is a motion on the need for full implementation of the Federal College of Dental Technology and Therapy Establishment Act 2017, standing in the name of Honorable Benjamin O. Kalu. Honorable Kalu is hereby invited to move the motion.
Thank you, most distinguished Speaker.
Honorable, my attention has just been raised on the suspension of our rules, Rule 12.3, that we are suspending the rule to take second and third reading together. So we'll now go straight into Committee of Supply. Thank you. So your bill, your motion will come later after that. So, Leader, please move that we go into Committee of Supply.
Mr. Speaker, I'm Julius Ihanvere, on one federal constituency, Edo State. I rise to move that we suspend the rules and revert to Committee of the Whole to consider the bill for a third time. I so move.
Any seconder? Any seconder? Leader?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Kingsley Chinda. I rise to second the motion under Order 12, Rule 56, that the House dissolves into a Committee of the Whole. That's the Committee of Supply. I so second.
Those in support should say aye. Aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. The House has resolved into Committee of Supply. Thank you. Please, honorable colleagues, those who do not have the document that will be constrained now should please raise their hands up. Okay.
My hand
So
is
let's
up
give
there.
5 minutes for members to be given the document before we proceed.
Second floor, I have no form here, please. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, those upstairs, please. There are those upstairs.
What? Upstairs. Clerk, please ensure that members upstairs are also given the document, please. Thank you. Have we all been given? Okay. Clerk, I hope you have made sufficient copies. Yes. Please, those who have not gotten should raise up their hands so that Sergeant at Arms will be able to recognize you.
See one free money in this, see one money in the National Assembly. It's valid. Why? I was. Huh? Oh, yeah. Okay, if you come, you give attention.
Bring you out.
Honorable colleagues, I believe each and every member has gotten the documents. So we start. As you know, the long title is a bill for an act to amend the Supplementary Appropriation Act 2022 to provide for the extraction of funds from the Supplementary Appropriation Act for provision of palliatives to cushion the effects of the removal of fuel subsidy in Nigeria and for related matters. So we go to clause 1, which is provision of the bill. Provision of the bill carried. Amendment, clause 2, amendment of the Supplementary Appropriation Act 2022. The Supplementary Appropriation Act, in this act referred to the principle is amended as set out in this act. Carried. Clause 3, amendment schedule. The schedule to the principal act is amended by extracting the sum of 500 billion naira only for provisions of palliatives to cushion the effects of the removal of fuel subsidy. Carried. Clause 4, citation. This bill may be cited as the 2022 Supplementary Appropriation Amendment Bill 2023. Carried. Clause 5, explanatory memorandum. This bill seeks to amend the Supplementary Appropriation Act 2022 to provide for the extraction of the sum of 500 billion naira only from the Supplementary Appropriation Act for provision of palliatives to cushion the effect of the removal of fuel subsidy in Nigeria. Carried.
Mr. Speaker, impute the word to.
Long title of the bill. Carried.
Chairman.
Leader, can you move that we revert back to plenary, please? Please move.
Mr. Speaker, I remain Professor Julius Ihonvere, Owan Federal Constituency, Edo State. Yes, I move that we revert to plenary. I so move, and to report progress to plenary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second the motion that will revert back to plenary to report the outcome of our sitting in Committee of Supply. I so second.
Those in support should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. House reverts back to plenary.
Speaker Edo, where I come out to. Yes, the front one.
Honorable colleagues,
Order, please.
Honorable colleagues, please can we get seated? Honorable Halims. Honorable colleagues, it's my pleasure to read the report of our Committee on Supply. The House and Committee of Supply considered the report on a bill for an act to authorize the issuance of the sum of 500 billion only from the 2022 supplementary appropriations out of 819 billion, 536 million, 937,815 naira only for the provisions of palliatives to Nigerians to cushion the effect of fuel subsidy removal. And in so doing, we have approved clauses 1 to 3, an explanatory memorandum, and the long title of the bill. I will now call on the leader to move for the adoption of this bill.
Mr. Speaker, Professor Julius Ihanvere, Owa Federal Constituency, Edo State, I rise to move for the adoption of the report of plenary as ably stated by the Speaker. I so move.
The minority leader?
Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I rise to second the motion that we adopt the report of the Committee on Supply. I so second.
Those in support of the adoption of this report, you say aye. Aye. Those against, you say nay. The ayes have it. Leader, can you move for the third reading of this bill?
Mr. Speaker, Professor Julius Ihanvere, Owa Federal Constituency, Edo State, I rise to move that a bill for an act to authorize the issuance of the sum of 500 billion naira only from the 2022 supplementary appropriations of 819 billion 536 million 937,815 naira only for the provision of palliatives to Nigerians to cushion the effect of fuel subsidy removal, HB 101, be read for a third time. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, the minority leader, can you second?
Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, Kingsley Chinda, I rise to second the motion moved by the Leader of the House that this bill be read a third time. I so second.
Thank you. I put the question. Those in support of this motion be read for the third time should say aye. Aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk, please read the long title of this bill.
Right Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to authorize the issuance of the sum of 500 billion from the naira only from the 2022 supplementary appropriation of 819 billion 536,937,815 naira only for the provision of palliatives to Nigerians to cushion the effect of fuel subsidy removal, third reading.
Thank you. The second order of the day. The bill read for the second, first, second, and third time read and passed. The second order of the day is a motion on the need for full implementation of the Federal College of Dental Technology and Therapy Establishment Act 2017, Standing in the name of Honorable Benjamin Okalu, Honorable Kalu is hereby invited to move the motion.
Thank you, Your Excellency, the most distinguished Speaker of the 10th Assembly, honorable colleagues. My name is Benjamin Okezie Carlo. I represent the good people of Nigeria, starting from Ben, the Federal Constituency. I rise to move a motion on the urgent need for the full implementation of the Federal College of Dental Technology and Therapy Establishment Act 2017. Mr. Speaker, the House knows that the National Assembly enacted the Federal College of Dental Technology and Therapy Establishment Act 2017. And pursuant to Section 6, subsection A of this Act, the college is empowered to award degrees, diploma, and certificate for courses provided for under the Act. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, the House further notes that the Federal College of Dental Technology and Therapy Establishment Act 2017, which provided a legal framework for the college, was established in 1955 and has been fully operational, aimed at empowering the institution to help reduce capital flight on the one hand and service of the critical medical sector and health manpower need of the nation on the other hand. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, the House is aware that the college all along has been funded by the annual national budget and is well positioned both in manpower and infrastructure to take off in line with the new mandate as provided for by the Federal College of Dental Technology and Therapy Establishment Act 2017. Honorable colleagues, the House is also aware that the visitation report from the National University Commission confirmed that the college is fully equipped with the availability of adequate manpower and facilities to offer degree awarding courses of study as required by the NUC. And as such, the college is duly qualified to fully function in line with the new mandate. The House is worried, Mr. Speaker, that despite meeting all necessary requirements, the National University Commission insists that the college may operate only in affiliation with the Federal University of Technology, Owerri, thereby obstructing the full implementation of the Federal College of Dental Technology and Therapy Establishment Act, an act of the National Assembly duly passed and given presidential assent in 2017, while also violating Section 4, subsection 1, paragraph A of the National University Commission Act, cap N81, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004. Therefore, the House resolves to urge the federal government to direct the National University Commission to revisit the college and provide the necessary accreditation as required by law to enable the full implementation of the Federal College of Dental Technology and Therapy Establishment Act 2007 as a degree awarding institution. 2017 as a degree awarding institution. And secondly, the House to mandate the committees on legislative compliance, tertiary education, and health institution when constituted to ensure compliance. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Any seconder? But not from Abia. My honorable colleague, go ahead.
Sir, distinguished colleagues, my name is Honorable Kale Jai Adeboye Paul. I represent the good people of Ajeromi Ifelodun Federal Constituency, the mini Nigeria. I rise to second the motion as ably moved by the Deputy Speaker. I so second. Thank you, sir.
So, honorable colleagues, we put the question. Those in support of this motion should say aye. Aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. The motion is referred to the Committee on Tertiary Education and Services, Health Institutions, and Legislative Compliance when constituted. The third order of the day is a motion on the need to investigate the untold hardships faced by Nigerian pilgrims at the recently concluded 2023 Hajj. Standing in the name of Honorable Ahmed Idris, Honorable Idris is invited to move the motion.
Mr. Speaker, respected colleagues, my name is Ahmed Idris. I represent Wasafiri Constituency of Plateau State. Mr. Speaker, respected colleagues, I want to grab the indulgence of the Right Honourable Speaker and respected colleagues to allow me have the second person who is also is co-sponsor of the motion, Honourable Stanley, to move the motion. I kindly seek for your permission, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Distinguished colleagues, I am Honorable Adedeji Stanley Olajide. I represent the people of Ibadan Northwest Southwest Federal Constituency of Oyo State. I rise to move a motion on the need to investigate the untold hardship faced by Nigerian pilgrims at the recently concluded 2023 Hajj. Mr. Speaker, note that the recently concluded Hajj exercise in the Holy Land of Saudi Arabia by over 95,000 Nigerian pilgrims. Also note Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, particularly Section 14 2B, provide us, the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. Informed that a total of about 95,000 slots were allotted to Nigeria, which was coordinated by the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, NACOM, and pursuant to Section 4, it is charged with the mandate of providing effective and efficient Hajj and Umrah services to Nigerian pilgrims. Also informed that this year's Hajj recorded one of the largest turnouts in the history of Hajj, and Al Jazeera and other international media putting figures at about 2.5 million pilgrims. Mr. Speaker, aware that the Nigerian pilgrims were subject to untold hardship during the Hajj exercise, from the inability of the airline, such as ARIC, to lift pilgrims due to the lack of aircraft, lack of adequate tent accommodation at Mina and Arafat, substandard tents with the unhealthy living conditions and environment, lack of proper medical attention to pilgrims in case of emergency, lack of proper transportation logistics for Nigerian pilgrims, Nigerians being made to miss their flights due to stringent bottlenecks regarding withholding of their international passport, inability to secure airport slots for Nigerian airline operators for lifting of Nigerian pilgrims from Saudi Arabia back to Nigeria, and many others. Also, Mr. Speaker, aware that over 25,000 Nigerian pilgrims, including those who paid for Tent A VIP class, were stranded in Mina due to the inadequate tent and over-subscription. I underline that. Over-subscription, leaving Nigerian pilgrims sleeping on the roads, under bridges, nearby mosques. There are cases of several public officials, such as president and former governors, senators, House of Rep members, and dignitaries, who had no tent and were made to sleep on unhealthy places and conditions. Further note that the VIP pilgrims were made to pay 5,000 US dollars, 8,000 reals, for 18,000 reals for VIP tents. And despite this exorbitant amount, Mr. Speaker, pilgrims were stranded while other got tents of lesser value that they paid for. Mr. Speaker, again, note that some tour operators perpetrated the worst form of unprofessionalism by failing to provide services promised to pilgrims in terms of accommodation, tent, feeding, and transportation. Mr. Speaker, disturbed by there was the absence of emergency medical services for sick patients in distress at Mina camp, as many distress patients could not even access ambulance services to the camp. Mr. Speaker, furthermore, also disturbed by the most Nigerian pilgrims were made to miss their flight and had to procure new tickets without justification or justifiable cause due to the disturbing bottlenecks placed by the Hajj services centers, especially Service Center number 16, who were held passport of pilgrims until a lengthy list of bottlenecks were fulfilled. Mr. Speaker, worried that many Nigerian pilgrims did not get commensurate value for the high amount of money they paid for, and justly clamoring for a full refund for tents and feeding. Also, Mr. Speaker, I'm worried that the agency mandated to cater for the Pilgrims Affairs, NACOM, has not been proactive in ameliorating the plight of Nigerians during the 2023 Hajj. Mr. Speaker, here are the prayers. Please, we are asking that you mandate the Committee of the Pilgrims Affairs, when constituted, to conduct a detailed investigation into the several anomalies that emanated from the 2023 Hajj and report back to the House within 4 weeks for further legislative action. Also, mandate the Committee on Legislative Compliance, when constituted, to ensure implementation. I so move, Mr. Speaker, respected colleagues.
Thank you, Honorable Stanley. I recognize Honorable Mark Obeta to second this motion. Microphone. Honorable Obeta, can you raise your hands up? Okay. Can you press the button, please? I can't see. It's not showing. Sorry. Okay. Okay, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Mark Chidi Obeta, representing the good people of Nsukka Igbeze South Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I am from Enugu State. I rise to second the motion ably moved by my colleague. I so second, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. This motion is referred to the Committee on Pilgrims Affairs and Legislative Compliance when constituted. The fourth order of the day is a motion on call for establishment of Ministry of Fisheries, Aquaculture, and Marine Resources, standing in the name of Honorable Awaji Enombek D. Abiante. Honorable Abiante is invited to move this motion.
Thank you. Right Honorable Speaker, my distinguished colleagues, I remain Awaji Nombek Dagomie Abiante. I represent the people of Andoni, Opobo, Nkoro Federal Constituency, and the job man from Rivers State. Mr. Speaker and my very distinguished colleagues, the House is aware. I move a motion on the call for the establishment of the Ministry of Fisheries, Aquaculture, and Marine Resources. The House is aware that despite having a coastline of 853 kilometers bordering the Atlantic Ocean, as well as fresh and mangrove swamps, creeks, coastal rivers, estuaries, bays, near and offshore waters, with the capacity to feed the entire country and export, Nigeria is and has remained the fourth largest importer of fish in the world for its teeming population of over 200 million people. The House notes that the 2016 Nigeria Fisheries Statistics Report puts an annual fish demand at an estimated 3.32 million metric tons and domestic production at about 1.12 million metric tons, while the 2018 World Bank report put Nigeria's annual fish demand at 3.4 million metric tons and the domestic production at 1.17 million metric tons. This leaves a deficit of 2.2 million metric tons as a 2016 report and a deficit of 2.23 million metric tons in the 2018 report. Thus, domestic production in Nigeria only meets about 40% of the demand for fish. This deficit is responsible for the over $1.2 billion loss of revenue through the importation of fish and fishery products during the aforementioned years. The House also notes that to fully meet the wholesome demand of Nigerians for fish, the country spent about 500 billion naira on fish imports between January and November 2021, as reported by the Nation newspaper of December 20, 2021. Findings according to the newspaper also revealed that Nigeria imported over 1 trillion naira, that is 2.06 billion, of fish from major 9 countries between 2019 and 2021, thus taking a toll on the country's foreign exchange and negatively affecting the country's GDP. The House further notes that fisheries is a major economic sector estimated to employ over 8.6 million people directly and a further 19.6 million indirectly, 70% of whom are obviously women. Owing to recent significant investment of private capital and a renewed political will to empower the private sector, the area of aquaculture development, Nigeria is the largest aquaculture producer in sub-Saharan Africa, and this importance is steadily increasing. Yes, hence the need to sustain the momentum through the establishment of a government agency in the form of the ministry we are demanding. Observe that the Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture, under the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, is perpetually underfunded and poorly administered and receives less than 9% of the budget for the ministry. This puts the development of the sector in a state of jeopardy, a sector that has so much potential in creating employment, providing food security, and generating foreign exchange for the government, the focal points of the economic recovery plan of the federal government in the post-pandemic era. Aware that the volume of global trade in the aquaculture value chain is worth more than $200 billion annually, and that the fisheries department in the top 10 leading aquaculture countries like China, Japan, Norway, even Egypt and Morocco in Africa, and Namibia have created exclusive entities for this department, believes that Nigeria can set an ambitious goal of becoming a leading country in fisheries and aquaculture in sub-Saharan Africa.
specifically in the productive development of its coastal marine environment by taking a more serious interest in the development of its fisheries and aquaculture sector, and providing equitable funding incentivize the over 1 million indigenous artisanal fishermen and small-scale fish farmers using very old equipment and outdated practices, and scale them up into diverse set of industrial fisheries practices using modern technologies for the growth and sustainability of fisheries and aquaculture. Submits that to reduce unemployment through the fishery and fish farming and boost fish production, to stop importation, enhance exportation of fish and fish products, thus increasing the country's foreign exchange earnings. There is an urgent need for the establishment of a separate ministry of fisheries, aquaculture, and marine resources. Also believes that establishing a separate ministry to drive this sector will not only save Nigeria the excess of $2 billion yearly used in importing fish and fish products, but create employment opportunities for local fish farmers and other stakeholders in the value chain to thrive, boost international trade, increase foreign exchange, and revenue generation for the country. I therefore call on this very distinguished House to resolve to join me in urging the federal government under our President to establish the Ministry of Fisheries, Aquaculture, and Marine Resources to govern the fisheries, aquaculture, and the marine resource sector, formulate plans, strategies, policies, and programs for fisheries development to guide the fisheries economic reform, and also mandate the Committee on Legislative Compliance to ensure that this is implemented. I so submit, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Mutu.
Thank you, Speaker. Mutu Nicholas Bomo is my name. I represent Bomondi Patani Federal Constituency. I'm from Delta State. I rise to second the motion heavily moved by my brother, my dear colleague, Honorable Bianti. I so second.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. The prayers are resolved as in the motion. Thank you. We go to the next, the fifth order of the day, which is a motion on the need to investigate the allegation of abuse of tax incentives, tax breaks, and tax waivers by public institutions and by companies benefiting from tax incentives, standing in the name of Honorable Oluwale Oke. Honorable Oke is hereby invited to move the motion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, my fellow colleagues. I am Oluwale Oke. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Osun State, representing the Ijesha North people. Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I move and I so move. Need to investigate the allegation of abuse of tax incentives, tax breaks, and tax waivers by public institutions and companies benefiting from tax incentives. Mr. Speaker, the House notes that it is within the ambit of the powers of the federal government to exercise executive and legislative jurisdiction over items in the executive legislative list, exclusive legislative list, contained in the second schedule to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. Mr. Speaker, items like taxation of incomes, profits, and capital gains, export and imports are exclusively within the control of the federal government. Mr. Speaker, the House also notes that in line with the above, the federal government of Nigeria exercise monetary and fiscal controls over the economy to stabilize both micro and macroeconomic conditions and fundamentals. Some of the tools available on monetary and fiscal policy authorities to tinker with the economy and stimulate economic activities in some sectors of the economy are tax waivers, tax breaks, tax exemptions, and tax incentives. Hence, when the government needs to attract investment and activities in a sector of the economy, it grants incentives in that sector. Recall, historically, that the federal government had issued policy documents in line with its fiscal goals and strategy. For example, the annual issuance for the fiscal policy measures by the Ministry of Finance, the periodic issuance of the value-added tax modification order. Some of this policy, Mr. Speaker, interventions have been effective in the past to achieve part of its objectives. The House further notes that available data also shows that while the federal government has good intentions, these practices have continued to create a major black hole in the purse of the government or the Federation. These losses are occasioned, Mr. Speaker, and driven primarily by abuses by companies that have been granted tax-based waivers and incentives. The House again notes that based on available data, Nigeria continues to lose about 8 trillion naira annually to tax incentives and waivers. About 6 trillion is lost to companies that abuse the system, while 2 trillion worth of waivers achieve the objectives of the federal government. Most of the abuses are arising from fiscal items like capital allowances, investment allowances, pioneer status incentives, free trade zone exemptions, value-added tax exemptions. Observe that these gaps have negatively affected Nigerian tax to GDP ratio of Nigeria, which stand at 10.6%, being one of the lowest in Africa. The gap created in the revenue profile of the government of the Federation has also contributed to the federal government seeking loans, grants, and aids to fund our annual budget deficit. Concerned that if urgent steps are not taken, Mr. Speaker, to investigate the situation, Nigeria may not only be hanging on a fiscal cliff, it may fall off the cliff and be heading to Venezuela, where is a situation where a country has huge resources, but is in deep economic crisis, recession, and depression. The House therefore resolves to set another committee, Mr. Speaker, to investigate the allegation and report back within 4 weeks for further legislative actions. I so move, sir.
Thank you. Any seconder? Honorable Prince Oji, or Prince, I hope I have called the name correctly.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my dear honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Prince Odianose Okoje. I represent the good people of East and Northeast and Southeast Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I am from Edo State, the heartbeat of the nation. Mr. Speaker, I rise here today to second the motion ably moved by our colleague. I so second, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Before I put the question, any amendment? Honorable Wase.
Da.
Mr. Speaker, my name is Sada Soli Jibia, representing Jibia Kaita Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, this motion is a very brilliant motion, it's a very good motion, but this motion is an open-ended motion. We must give a time frame of the limit of the investigation within the tax he's saying. Is it from tomorrow and today? Is it from yesterday or today? So we must determine from which year to which year. Otherwise, it will be open-ended. So it must be time-bound. I suggest that we can limit it to 3 or 4 years.
Let's allow the mover to suggest what period of time he wants this investigation to cover.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I recommend 6 years time frame, sir. 6 years.
When to when?
From 2018 to date, sir.
So, Honorable Sada, if you kindly complete your amendment based on the advice we just received from the mover.
Mr. Speaker, I'm glad the mover of the motion amended his motion, but I would suggest that let me move that this motion should have a time frame from 2019 to 2022. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
So, honorable colleagues, we have two positions here. The mover is saying 6 years, which translate to 2017 to 2023, and we have an amendment that says 2020 to 2023. So I put the question on the second amendment raised by Honorable Sada Soli. Those in support of this motion that we amend the time period to 3 years, should say aye. Those against should say nay. I'll put the question again. Those in support of this amendment should say aye. Aye. Those against should say nay. Nay. Last time. Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against you say nay. Nay. The nays have it. So the 6-year period recommended by the mover stands. So we put the question on the main motion. Those in support of this motion as amended, as amended should say aye. Aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. This motion is referred to a committee to be inaugurated or to be inaugurated in due course. Thank you. And the next, the fifth order of the day, is it fifth? Okay, the sixth order of the day is a motion on the need to provide a lasting solution to the water scarcity menace in Duku Town, Duku local government area of Gombe State, standing in the names of Honorable Abdullah Rashid and 11 other honorable members. Honorable Rashid is hereby invited to move the motion.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is Abdullahi Rashid, member representing Dukunafada Federal Constituency from Gombe State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to present a motion on the need to provide a lasting solution to the water scarcity menace in Duku Town, Duku local government area of Gombe State. The House notes that Duku local government area was created in 1976 and one of the few oldest communities in northern Nigeria that have over the years grown in terms of population and size, and according to available historic facts, is believed to have been founded in the 18th century when it served as a settlement for Fulani people who originally migrated from the West African sub-region. The House also notes that geographically the local government is made of plains and valleys as well as hosting the Wawazange Grazing Reserve. The House is aware that the local government area has an age-long history of water scarcity that has continued to be a huge problem to the people and have also negatively impacted on their economic prosperity as it affects farming and animal husbandry, with the worst affected areas situated in the upper part of River Gongola. Recall that in 2010, the United Nations General Assembly explicitly recognized the human right to water sanitation, where everyone has the right to sufficient, safe, acceptable, physically accessible and affordable water for personal and domestic use. Concerned that successive governments, particularly at state and local government levels, have demonstrated unwavering commitment toward bringing a lasting solution to the water scarcity problem in Duku, but to no avail, thereby leaving majority of the people without access to safe, potable, and available water for their consumption and farming activities. Further concerned that the various water tributaries that pass through the grazing reserve have not been utilized to create sustainable ice dams that can provide adequate water reserve all year round. Recall that due to the water scarcity menace in Duku in the late 70s and 80s, the people were hit hard by the epidemic of guinea worm disease that was widely spread until the intervention of Jimmy Carter Foundation, the guinea worm eradication program headed by former Nigerian head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, retired, that the disease was eradicated and strongly recommended the provision of potable drinking water to the people of Duku. Worried that if adequate measures are not put in place to bring a lasting solution to the water scarcity problem in Duku, the people and their health will be left with no alternative than to migrate to other areas with availability of water, which lead to food insecurity as it will greatly affect farming activities. Aware that the Northeast Development Commission, NEDC, is a government intervention agency established to, among other things, to tackle the menace of poverty, literacy level, ecological problems, and any other related environmental or developmental challenges in the Northeast state to provide sustainable economic stability and growth in the region. Accordingly resolved, 1, urge the Northeast Development Commission, NEDC, to A, construct all-encompassing water supply project comprises of boreholes, boosting stations, and collection/distribution channels from Mayolamido, 8 kilometers away from Duku Town to Duku Town and its environments. B, construct modern ice dams in the most vulnerable villages and communities in Duku local government area that are on water channels that run to the river Gongola, particularly Waziri South, Waziri North, Zange, and Kunde wards, respectively. 2, mandate the committees on Northeast Development Commission, NEDC, and legislative compliance when constituted to ensure food compliance. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, the importance of this motion cannot be overemphasized.
Honorable, just move. Go ahead and move.
So I move, Mr. Speaker. I so move.
Any seconder? Let me identify somebody who is also affected by this particular issue. I'll call Honorable Kumo to second.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My respected colleagues, I am Usman Bello Kumo. I represent the good people of Akko Federal Constituency from Gombe State. I rise to second this motion. Thank you. I so second.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. This motion is referred to the Committee on NADC and legislative compliance when constituted. The seventh order of the day is a motion on need to limit crude oil lifting contracts to companies quoted on the Nigerian Exchange Group. Standing in the name of Honorable Gali Mustafa Tijani, Honorable Tijani is hereby invited to move the motion.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is Dr. Gali Mustafa Tijani, member representing the good people of Albasu, Gaya Ajingi Federal Constituency. I rise this afternoon to move the motion, the need to limit crude oil lifting contracts to companies quoted on the Nigerian Exchange Group. The House, aware that the oil and gas sector is the backbone of Nigeria's economy, and its global prominence and contributions cannot be overemphasized. Note that the sector lacks effective governance and falls short of transparency and accountability due to the operation of briefcase companies, which add no tangible value to our economy. Also note that the briefcase companies are inexperienced and without required financial, commercial capacity, and expertise in crude oil business. Conscious that the widely publicized Nuhuri-led Petroleum Revenue Special Task Force found, among other things, that Nigeria loses billions of dollars monthly due to the activities of briefcase companies that lift Nigeria's crude oil. Cognizant that these facts have been corroborated by other credible bodies, including the Nigerian Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, Natural Resource Governance Institute, Chatham House Report of 2013, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, and the Center for Research on Multinational Corporations. Observe that these companies and their collaborators have become resistant and adamant and have continued to operate unabated to change Nigerians, despite many recommendations to do away with them. Concerned that only a negligible number of oil and gas companies registered with Nigerian Stock Exchange Group, despite global prominence of Nigeria's oil and gas industry, envisaged that listing these companies on the stock exchange will curb the incessant revenue loss and will create capital availability to the economy. Furthermore, it will allow the regulatory authorities to have greater control over their activities. Resolved to constitute an ad hoc committee to investigate and identify oil and gas companies payable to lift Nigeria's crude oil and put in place effective mechanisms to which the companies will be quoted in the Nigerian Exchange Group and report back within 4 weeks. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Any seconder? My honorable pastor from Benue.
Thank you very much, the People's Speaker. My name is still Pastor Honorable Ojema Ojotu, representing the hardworking people of Apa Agatu Federal Constituency of Benue State. I'm of PDP. Mr. Speaker, I stand to respectively second the motion ably moved by my very good friend and a colleague. I so second. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and put the question. Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. This motion is referred to an ad hoc committee to be constituted later. The eighth order of the day is a motion on the need to investigate the utilization of ecological funds released for the Great Green Wall from 2015 to date, standing in the name of Honorable David Abel Foa and 3 other honorable members. Honorable Foa is hereby invited to move the motion. Honorable Foa. Please, can you raise up your hand for me to... Is he not around? There are 3 other sponsors, so is there any one of them around? None of the members, 3 members. So, are you one of those sponsoring this motion?